Hi, I'm Trudy, and I'm here today to help you build your self-esteem by talking about book clubs. Book club is not like Fight Club. The first rule of book club is not, don't talk about book club. Now, I may be kind of an odd choice for someone to talk about book clubs because I actually have never belonged to a real-life book club. I'm not sure why that is. I love to read. Many of my friends belong or have belonged to book clubs. I have one friend who complains that she belongs to too many book clubs, but apparently she just can't quit them. My experience with book clubs comes from a different side. As a writer, since I published my first Newfoundland historical novel, By the Rivers of Brooklyn, I have been invited to visit a lot of local book clubs. I would guess probably at least 15 between the ones I visited for By the Rivers of Brooklyn and the ones I visited with That Forgetful Shore. Some I've been back to twice. Just this week I'm doing my first book club visit for A Sudden Son, and I really hope there are a lot more to come because as a writer I love going to book clubs. It is my favorite part about promoting a book because unlike a reading or a signing where you're trying to push your book to people who don't know much about it, with a book club, you're sitting down to talk about your book with people who have read it and engaged with it, usually enjoyed it, and have strong opinions on it. And for me, it's like the characters come to life again when I visit a book club. So I can talk about book clubs mainly as an observer, and here's what I can tell you about them. First of all, overwhelmingly made up of women. I don't know why that is. Men read books, maybe they just don't like to get together in groups and discuss them. Also overwhelmingly, women over 40. Whether that's because younger women don't have the time for book clubs, who knows? A lot of retired women for sure. Now, I have been to book clubs with younger women in them. I've also been to several book clubs that had a token man or two. Normally, they meet in someone's home. There's food, there's drink. They pick a book to talk about. Often, group members alternate month by month, picking a book to bring to discussion. Some book groups are very structured in how they run the discussion, running through a list of discussion questions, which can be a great way to get started, but also can be kind of limiting. Others are very free and unstructured. Everybody just goes around and talks about what they thought about the book and what it called up for them in, their own experience or other things they've read. So if you've never been part of a book club and you're asked to join one, you may find something like this. Somebody opens the discussion, asks everyone what they thought about the book, they go around and talk about it, and you might hear things like this. I was completely wrapped up in this book. From the time I got it, I started reading it that night, I stayed up half the night, couldn't put it down. I just devoured it in a couple of days. I could relate to it so much. Well, at first I did like the book quite a lot. I was really drawn into it, but I wasn't happy with the ending. Towards the end, I kind of felt like some of the things the characters didn't really make sense to me. And, call me a romantic, but I hope they would get back together at the end. I feel so bad. I have a confession to make. I didn't read this month's book. I wanted to. It looks like a great book, but it's just been such a crazy month at work. Everything's going wrong. I had a lot of stuff going on at home. I sat down several times meaning to, but I just didn't get the book read. I feel so bad. Now, admittedly, that last is a bit of a cliche, and book clubs sometimes get made fun of, often by the husbands of book group members, in my experience, for saying things like, oh, they all show up and nobody's read the book and they just sit around and eat and drink and have a good time. I haven't found this generally to be true. I don't think this should be a deal breaker with book club. If you love books, but this month you were too busy and you didn't get to read the assigned book, you should show up anyway. Listen to people talk about it. Maybe you'll be inspired to read it. The first rule of book club is not that you have to have read the book. The first rule of book club is that you have to love books and talking about them. Now let's look at the second part of this. What if you invite an author to visit your book club? If you read books by authors in your local area, then I strongly recommend that you do this. Most authors like doing it, and if they don't, they will certainly politely decline. Some authors even do it for people outside their own area on Skype nowadays. Hey, and that way you don't have to feed the author. So what if the author shows up to book club? Can you still have that free, wide-ranging discussion? For the most part, yes. When I visited book clubs as an author, people have gone around the circle to talk about the book, and I've heard things like, this book is so meaningful and powerful. It just was transformative for me. I have to know, was any of it based on your personal experience? Where did you get your ideas from? Well, I did like the book. I did think some of the ways that the main character acted were a little bit frustrating. In fact, when she did that thing, you know what thing I'm talking about, when she did that thing, I wanted to slap her. I just wanted to go up and slap her right across the face. Oh, wait, before we go on, I loved it so much that I bought copies for my mother, my sister, and my aunt. I have them all here in my bag. Do you mind signing them before you go? Persephone, your brownies are delicious. Can I get the recipe? All of which are fantastic. Now that last comment kind of speaks to something else that book clubs get teased a lot for. Oh, they don't really talk about the book much. They spend all their time drinking wine and eating fancy baked goods. Now, I will admit, there have been bottles of wine at just about every book club I've visited. That particular thing kind of passes me by because I don't drink, but I am a sucker for nice baked goods, and I will say some of the best baked goods I've ever eaten have been at book clubs. But again, I don't think this is a problem. Why is this a bad thing? Good conversation, good books, good food and drink, these are all good things, and they don't have to be compartmentalized. You can enjoy them all together. I will say I've had one bad experience. I went to visit a book club that was held not in someone's home, but in our local public library. And I arrived at the time the book club started, and the person leading the group said to me, "We'd prefer if you would stay outside while we discuss the book, and then you can come in after a half an hour and we'll ask you some questions." That was terrifying, because of course I automatically assumed, oh my goodness, they all hated the book, they want to trash it behind my back. I went upstairs, and the bad thing about the way our public library is built is that on the second floor there's a big open area, and the area where the book group was meeting was directly below this. So even though I went upstairs and tried to do something else to distract myself, I could still hear the whole discussion. And the thing is, they weren't trashing my book. Most of them had loved it, and they had great things to say about it. They just wanted to be able to do that without the author there listening. But as a result, I was incredibly stressed out. When I did come back and discuss with them, it was a wonderful experience, and we had a great time. For the most part, feel free to say what you want to say about the book, even if the author's there. I guess the one exception is if your response to the book was this. Yeah, I actually, hated this book. To the point that every time I tried to pick it up and read it, I wanted to poke my eyes out, and I never did get through it because life is just too short, you know? And to be honest, when I think about, I can't remember, but whoever's suggestion it was for us to read this book, I actually feel anger towards them, I'm really, really enraged. Then yeah, maybe you want to just stay home that night. Bottom line, I'm a big fan of book clubs. If you're invited to join a book club, give it a try. Don't be intimidated. If you read books by a local author or an author who Skypes, invite an author to visit your book club. And if you are an author, I hope you get the pleasure of going to visit a book club and hearing people discuss your work with energy and enthusiasm and love, because nothing beats that. I'll be back later in the month with another video, and in the meantime, keep reading, keep writing, keep building your self-esteem.